On the
That's so
agenda.
great.
Yes.
Yeah, I need
I bet.
Pass it down, Mike.
There you go, Mike.
Right.
So I gave you.
No, I didn't. So tonight we're doing the Apple meeting. What am I supposed to say?
Roll call.
Well.
Yep, okay, so our
What
acting,
you do is say, welcome to the meeting, it's 7:45 time for the aquifer protection meeting, because you're the chair.
He's the vice chair, he can nominate you to do it.
Want me to do it?
Yeah, you do it.
Oh, I never did. Cause you're always. We ready?
Yes.
Good evening, welcome to the Monday, October 7th, regular meeting of the Aquifer Protection Agency. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:49. Like this, so seated, please, to do a roll call vote.
okay, so we're all, Timothy Lettieri. Nope.
She's at the debate
Yep, Eddie Alberino,
here.
Dylan Walter,
Here,
Michael Rossi. No. Lawrence Edwards,
Here.
Jay Mandel. No, Ellen Dahlgren. Mike Florio.
Here.
Susan Marcus.
Here.
Zach Ford
here,
and Bill Clark,
here.
Is he coming for the meeting? Mike?
as far as I know.
Not you guys.
Second item on tonight's agenda is a review of the minutes from the July 8, 2024 meeting. Do we have those minutes?
They should be in front of you. Someone-
Yeah, we have.
Um,
I have the regular meeting minutes, I did not have the.
Yeah, meeting.
should have been in your packet up front there, but if they're not, then we can certainly, if you wanted to postpone this until the next meeting.
Yes. Do I have to make a motion for that?
No, I think we just go ahead. and-
Okay, so we're gonna postpone the reading of the minutes until the next meeting of the Aquifer Protection Agency.
It should be next one.
When's the next meeting, the date?
So we're not until December,
December meeting.
maybe January.
The next item on the agenda is new business. Is there anything to bring up under the topic of new business?
There is not.
There being none, we'll move on to old business. Anything under old business? There being none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
No, second.
I'll second.
And it's been seconded.
Susan.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The meeting is adjourned at 7:52.
6:52.
6:52.
Hey, Don.
Thanks, Bob. I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's planning and zoning meeting. Tonight it's Monday, October 7th, 2024. We do a roll call.
Yeah, I'll do a roll call and I'll just remind folks, we're gonna need to speak up tonight because folks at home will be on the call with us, will be listening through our owl microphone. We don't have a projection system right now available to us, so
Yeah, we got really talk well.
yep. Can somebody who is online with us just verify that you can hear as we get started with roll?
Loud and clear.
Thank you, Tony. All right, so for the roll, Chinzy Lettieri. Nope. Eddie Alberino,
Here.
Dylan Walter,
Here.
Michael Rossi. Nope. Lawrence Edwards,
Here.
Jay Mandel,
Here.
Ellen Dahlgren. Nope. Mike Florio.
Here.
Okay, Sue Marcus. Here. Zach Ford
Here.
and Bo Clark.
Here.
Cheers, comments?
I have none from Chair Rossi, and if you have none, then.
No, I haven't. How about the minutes?
So you would need, someone would need to make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 9th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I'll second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstained.
Opposed? Anyone opposed?
One abstention, I wasn't present.
Abstained.
I wasn't present on the saying.
Okay, and we should also, we have a few alternates, we should probably seat folks, for those who are not here, so, we have Bo. So we want to see that the available seats are Chinzia's, Ellen's, and Michael Paul, all three could be seated.
Yeah, so we'll see both for Mike. India, Susan, I guess, and who's the other one there?
Susan Virginia.
Yeah, Ellen would be. Yeah. Larry. Yeah.
March, March,
Larry, you got it.
now, next week,
Why don't do this?
Larry and Bo will both be full, right?
No, just Bo.
Just Bo?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't take this.
Well, that's right, you can't, because you're taking that, right.
So we'll do an update on membership as it's official, and then we go from there.
All right, next is presentation.
Yep, and so we have on the line with us today, we have Megan Dupless from RiverCog and Miranda Zhang, who is with us to present the Thriving Communities Program. We've talked about this a few times as part of our general planning discussions and ongoing planning topics that are happening around town. But I think it would be great to turn it over to Megan and Miranda, and they have a few members from their team as well that they'll introduce and go through the project and give us a status update. I think they're really hoping to hear some feedback and thoughts from the commission tonight.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Am I able to share my screen? Yes, it looks like I am. Perfect. Is everyone able to see the presentation?
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk with you about this transit-oriented development vision plan. I'm Megan Dupless. I'm the Deputy Director at the Lower Connecticut River Valley Council of Governments, also known as RiverCog, which, if anyone isn't familiar, is the regional planning organization for Middlesex County plus Lyme and Old Lyme. I'm also joined by our consultants from WSP and Accelerator for America, who I will let introduce themselves once I turn things over. But before I do that, I was going to start us off with a brief overview of the project. So this transit-oriented development vision plan is a regional effort that involves a lot of different partners. And let's see. Sorry. You can see those here. So RiverCog is the lead on this project and is partnering with the towns of Clinton, Westbrook, and Old Saybrook, as well as the City of Middletown and Hope Partnership. We also have a 4-consultant team from WSP, Accelerator for America, Miranda Creative, who is doing public engagement for us, and Nathan L. Jacobson and Associates working on a wastewater capacity study. The Transit-Oriented Development Plan is made possible through the Thriving Communities Program, which is a new program out of U.S. Department of Transportation. And it provides technical assistance and capacity building support to communities that are looking to implement transformative infrastructure projects. So RiverCog is a Thriving Communities Program participant, and WSP and Accelerator for America make up our capacity building team. We are part of a nationwide cohort of 14 communities that are also working to advance equitable transit-oriented development and improve safe and reliable and accessible transit service. So through the Thriving Communities Program, RiverCog and the whole team have been working with the towns of Clinton, Westbrook, Old Saybrook, and the City of Middletown to create a transit-oriented development vision plan that will enhance multimodal connectivity and promote walkable, compact, and mixed-use development near the 3 Shoreline East stations and the Middletown bus terminal. So the concept for this, which you can see in the graphic on the slide, is to encompass 3 levels of transit-oriented development. The first is the transit hubs, which you can see in pink. And these are the areas that are within a half a mile of the transit station and what most people think of when they think of transit-oriented development. The second is the local destinations, which you can see by the green icons. And these are places within the municipality that would benefit from better connectivity to the transit hub. So basically, when people are going to the train station or getting off of the train, they're coming from or going to someplace. And we want to know where those frequent destinations or originations are so that we can provide better multimodal connectivity. And then lastly, because Rivercog is a regional agency, we're also looking at this through a regional lens, and we're looking at those regional links between the transit hubs and also into and out of the region, which are indicated in the graphic in blue. And so without further ado, I will turn things over to Miranda Zhang to talk to us a little bit more about the project.
Thank you, Megan, and good evening, everyone. My name is Miranda Zhang, and I'm from WSP, and I apologize for not be able to join the call with camera on, because there is a internet maintenance started 20 minutes before this meeting started. I want to check, is my audio sounds okay on my phone?
I can hear you online.
Yeah, we can generally hear you.
Okay. Thank God. Okay, great. So as the project manager for the technical assistant team, I want to appreciate you the opportunity to for us to present the progress and introduce the project. The presentation today is essentially a short version of what we have presented at the community workshops in August. This includes a project overview, an introduction for TOD, and what we have learned so far, as well as the input we learned from the stakeholder. Megan, I believe you are on slide 5, and then we can move on to slide 6.
Got it.
So for project overview, the TOD vision plan aims to establish a shared vision for transit-oriented development that resonates across all communities, and also a planning framework to guide future development around the station areas. Recognizing the TOD does not happen overnight, this plan will lay the groundwork and the pathway forward to promote collaborations among jurisdictions, developers, and community members to bring this vision to life over time. I want to emphasize that the project is a community-based process. Community input is a key to the success of our project. We are actively seeking community input and incorporate the feedback to guide each step of the project process. And lastly, clarification that this is not a transit plan, rather than discussion of the transit service and transit service improvements. The project will be focusing on land use, development, and infrastructure improvement in and around the station area. Megan, we can go to slide 7. Here is an overview of the project tasks and schedule. Our study will span about 15 months in kind of like 3 general phases. Throughout this process, we will hold 3 rounds of community events to gather feedback. We have kicked off the project by accessing existing conditions in each station area and analyzing the land use capacity, as well as market demand for TOD. We have conducted stakeholder interviews in June, which Zach will share the summary of what we have learned later in the presentation. We're currently working on the TOD framework, which shows as the blue bar in the middle. In this process, we will identify the preferred POD scenarios and also desired infrastructure improvements. And we plan to share the updates with the community in January next year, and then to incorporate the feedback we learned into finalizing the report. The phase 3, the green bar, the third bar on the schedule, will be focusing on implementation strategies and preparing the final report. And the project will be wrapping up by middle next year. We can go to slide 8. For engagement, There are several ways we have established for community members and general public to provide input. There's a project webpage launched under the WeaverCog website, where you can check for project updates, learn about upcoming events, and download information. Also, you can leave a message anytime with any questions and comments you want to share with the project team. In the summertime, we also have a hosted online survey, which we have received about 150 responses. Those are the questions asking the community's needs and their priorities related to transit-oriented development. We can go to slide 9. So with the project overview, we will focus on the topic of transit-oriented development. So what is TOD? I'm sure this is a very familiar concept for all of you. And as the name suggested, TOD starts with a transit station, either a bus or a rail station at its core. And the study area is typically a quarter to a half mile around the station, which is roughly a 5 to 10 minutes walk for most of people. TOD is diverse. It includes a mix of different uses, offering various types of housing, restaurants, shops, office, entertainment, and different activities. TOD also is impact because it promotes bringing different activities closer and together to make it possible for people to live, work, and play in the same area without the need to drive to every destination all the time. And TOD is walkable. TOD design is pedestrian-oriented. Streets are designed not only for cars, but for all modes of travel, and it will prioritize walking and biking through features like safer crosswalks and bike lanes, as well as high quality and attractive public open spaces. We can go to slide 10. So why TOD matters? It is important to point out that TOD offers a range of benefits for everyone in the community, no matter you live in the station area or not. For example, from an environmental perspective, by increasing land use efficiency and reduce the need for long commutes and dependence on driving, this TOD will contribute to a lower greenhouse gas emissions and overall carbon footprint. And from accessibility point of view, TOD provides better access to different destinations and enhancing life quality for all. And for economic perspective, it helps to attract high-skilled workers and young professionals. And this is particularly critical as we're facing population decline in the region. We can go to slide 11. So how do we get there? Successful TOD starts with thoughtful planning around transit as the big arrow on the top. So this means connecting the planning for all the different elements in the diagram to create a cohesive and vibrant area around transit. That including, for example, land use and housing components, as well as encourage infill development, brownfield redevelopment. Also, to manage parking effectively. TOD does not against parking. This means manage, but smartly to manage parking so it takes less space and located at the back of the building rather than the front, for example. And TOD projects can be advanced through federal grants and public-private partnerships. These are also often linked with affordable housing programs. We talk about planning around transit, and the other arrow at the bottom of the slides, we want to emphasize that one size does not fit all when we come to TOD planning. And our approach is to really understand the specific needs of each community and create customized TOD strategy for different neighborhoods. We can go to slide 12. So what we have studied so far, there is a diagram on the right, kind of summarizing the TOD opportunities and from our existing condition assessment. This is for a 1 mile distance from the Clinton station, with an inner circle marked as the half-mile distance. Besides the review of existing condition, we also reviewed the previous plans. Rivercog and its partners have completed a number of important studies, and this reviewing of these plans helped the team to make sure that this TOD study is in line with the regional goals and other ongoing planning efforts. The other task we have been undergoing is the TOD capacity analysis. So this is to identify the vacant and developable land that are suitable for TOD in the station area. And this includes a wastewater capacity analysis, as we understand that is a critical factor when it comes to TOD density, developable land in the station area. And from market demand perspective, we have also conducted data analysis, and building more housing in the region is feasible as there are high demand for housing within the walkable neighborhoods, closing to transit, and these will also benefit the businesses, residents, and the community for growth. The last two I would mention is our team also did our case studies to learn from local examples, particularly successful TOD in Connecticut. Nothing is better than the lessons learned from the adjacent example. So those ideas will be also incorporated in our process when we identifying opportunities for the Rivercog study areas. And from here, I will pass to Zach to talk about stakeholder interview summaries. Megan, I think we are on slide 13.
Great.
Just before, Zach, before you get started, is there a time for questions as we go, or do you guys want folks to ask questions at the end? We have a couple of members with some questions.
Sure. Yeah, we can have the question now, or I think Zach can cover the stakeholder interview summary, and then we can have the question session altogether.
The question is about the stakeholders. Who the hell are the stakeholders? Who's more important than the citizens of this town that has this plan? This is all about limiting our freedom to take public transportation, walk and ride bikes. What happens to our cars? We can't drive our cars wherever the hell we want to go, like free Americans that we are. It's bullshit.
I don't think that there's anything in this plan that would prohibit folks from being able to drive. I think it's about investing in the core of our downtown, which is served by transit anyway, to say, how can we invest in and support activities in those areas to make it more vibrant, to make it possible for folks who may not have car resources, who may want to engage a little bit differently in our community, and who may want to frequent businesses in a different way. It doesn't take anything away from folks who want to drive. It just says we can invest in these core areas.
Well, I came down from Cheshire, down Route 10, and there was a whole electric bikes, for rent, and I see people on renting the bikes, and they're going off on the merry way, maybe electric bikes or something like that. It's I don't know.
I partially agree with Dylan that, I don't object to Serrano. We have a good transit-oriented district here in town. We have an outline for it at least. So we've taken advantage of that in a couple spots where it's been appropriate. I just question the regional approach. I think that, Clinton should be governed by the people in Clinton. Particularly care what the people in Westbrook, Old Saybrook, or Middletown want from Clinton. I'm here to make Clinton the top priority.
So, yeah, I think that part of the purpose of the study isn't necessarily to have, as I think Miranda said, a one size fits all approach, and what someone does in another community is what necessarily happens around our resources here. I think maybe if Zach can go through some of the stakeholder conversation and what some of that outreach has been and why they're here tonight, specifically because they want to hear from more folks in Clinton. Because there's been involvement, but there's an opportunity for more. And I think the idea here is that there's not a prescription of activities coming out of this, the town is somehow obligated to participate in. It's meant to say, here are things we can think about and resources at our disposal so that we can drive where this whole conversation goes. It's not at all intended to usurp the control of the town in its determination of how we develop.
Oh, one comment I have is, I saw there was a stakeholder engagement in August. I did not attend. I don't think it was widely attended, so I don't think we as representatives of the town of Clinton really did voice much of our, thoughts on this. So I saw there was a second stakeholder engagement, I believe January was what that said. So I mean, all that being said, like, the only way this will be tailored towards us is if we do attend those stakeholder meetings.
We're not stakeholders. though.
We're representatives of the stakeholders is the whole
And-
concept.
And one thing may be to have Zach go through who was considered so far as part of that stakeholder conversation, and then hear from you on who else.
This Zach right here?
No, Zach answered.
Who's considered a stakeholder?
That's what I think Zach is trying to present to us.
One other comment I'd like to make is we're in the process of redoing our plan of conservation and development, where we'll be doing this on an individual basis.
That's right.
The people that we are hiring to do to update the plan should be taking in this information and focusing on the Clinton.
And they're aware, so these are not exclusive projects. There's no project that happens right now. Same thing with the coastal resiliency work. There's no project that happens in town right now that won't wind up filtering back through P O C D government through this.
And just to be clear, there's two people that on this commission that belong to her.
Mhm.
And we've been attending on the river, you know, things, meetings.
And we've talked about this project a few times at meetings.
Strange to me.
Well, we've talked about the project a number of times, and at the beginning of the project, the town sort of agreed to participate. It was done.
Right.
The commission was involved in that process as well. And so it's not necessarily out of left field, but I think it's important, for folks who are presenting tonight to hear loud and clear that the local purview is a major issue for the folks in this room, and that shouldn't be lost as we go forward. And I think perhaps if Zach can present some of the stakeholder conversations about what's been done so far, it may give you a better context to then give some suggestions on where this.
Are they-
can be fixed.
Are they familiar with Clinton? These people?
Yep, this is not brand new. This has been going on for a little while. We've given some updates.
We've
at
been
commission
talking.
meetings. Yeah.
We've been talking about it for quite a
Correct. And then back to my point, we, including myself, didn't provide any insight. Like, I did not provide insight to when they reached out. So like, that's
What
what
would you say, Zach, if you had?
at this point, I'm still new to hearing about this. I mean, the
Yeah,
thought
me
is,
too.
yeah,
We
the
all,
thought is like getting to Middletown's like has the major hospital, or the accessible major hospital in the area.
right,
Westbrook has the accessible major urgent care. So I mean, just as a quick thought, like any sort of transit to there.
but you see what Larry and I run, see what we just
For urgent care.
I mean,
I
would
like-
this program
If I
potentially,
could, as a chairperson for the River Cog for me and Ed,
disapprove.
this, from the meetings we had, that there's gonna be some busing and funding that's already taken place that's gonna be provided through Middletown to create this, bus line or whatever it is that's gonna be coming down here. And it's another thing to sort of connect Clinton to the other parts in this unity of towns that's coming down here. And it's something that's more or less ordained by Hartford and not by the, the villages and the towns that are around here,
Exactly.
And it's something it's being impressed upon. I think that should be under an understanding, and I think that's sort of what Yeah, Dylan, voiced in the beginning, what is it, It's like, what do you want us, like, step aside and allow this to happen to our towns, it's something that's been around for 400 years, our towns, but, as far as having a busing situation going on is one thing, that's not an issue at all. But, you're talking about creating the downtown areas and everything, right? It's something that's, that's gonna need a very heavy discussion, I think.
In terms of that, not to sidetrack too far, but I believe like part of our greater town council conversations are in creating a downtown district area. That's like a greater conversation outside of planning and zoning, that is kind of coming from the town council, if that's not correct.
That's a piece of it, and I think, this effort is about creating and finding resources and recommendations to connect us with basically resources for best practices, identify funding sources for projects that we want to see happen. It is not about saying the state is going to mandate you do the following things and you have to do them. That's
Isn't
not-
that what we hired to do?
So I think what I would recommend is letting them get through the presentation so you have a fuller picture. And then if there are continued concerns or pieces that we want to go through, we've got the team here tonight that you can voice those things, right?
The desegregated people that presented to us earlier already said that they would withhold funding if you didn't go along with the plans, or severely diminish the funding if you didn't follow along with their transit oriented.
Well, and that was a piece of legislation that they were pushing that didn't go forward in that way, but they were coming around to present, but it wasn't a mandate. So I think, and I think sort of similarly, it is a regional effort to participate in bringing resources to communities that may not have otherwise had access to them, and having a body of consultants to provide a review of our current status of best practices and give recommendations on where we can go and how we might choose to get there.
This is maybe off the subject here, but we spent millions and millions and millions of dollars for the bus line. No one uses it. My company sold all the concrete, which they don't care, but no one uses it. No one uses the bus. You know what I'm talking about, the bus line?
Yeah.
No one uses it. No one. So I don't know. If they're just trying to spend money, just give us money so we can take care of our.
Well, the good thing is it's grant funded, so this is not something that.
Which means we paid for it anyway.
Okay, for
It's coming through a different source, but I do think that we have the team here. I think, out of respect for the work that they are doing in order to try to bring some resources to this area, I think it's worthwhile hearing the rest of the presentation. And then I think we can tailor some more comments to say, okay, here's what we do like, what we don't like, and where our major concerns are. Because I think it's very clear.
Well, we're doing that huge Westbrook, we're on board for that, right, Larry?
Yeah.
We're gonna let them do 65 feet. I mean, we really went overboard,
Yeah.
yeah.
60 feet,
60 feet,
60 feet.
the hotel.
It's a hotel.
I mean,
Commons.
we're on board.
One of my questions was, I know that doing a survey from last February or March, it's been going on and it's gonna be going on through the middle of next year. So what happens after that point? Are they gonna make a decision with or without our approval?
No,
They're gonna-
there will be a report that comes out of this process that gives us a series of suggestions, opportunities, and potential grant funding sources that we can choose to pursue or not. And so there's not a mandate to act based on participation.
Isn't that what we hired those people with the P O C D?
So a little bit, this is pretty focused on the
Right.
transit sort of section of things, and this began before the P O C D. This will also feed into the P O C D recommendations in whatever way you choose. You will be the driving force of that. I think it makes sense to let them finish
We'll let them finish.
and then go from there.
Just-
Fine.
Yeah.
All right, Zach, you're up.
All right, thank you very much.
Back up.
I'm gonna start with some more information on the SEDS, and then we'll get into the stakeholder interviews a little bit more. But before jumping in, I'd just like to thank Megan and her team at RiverCog. for all the great work that they've been doing and already done, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission for having us here tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to share what we've done and hope to continue working on. So I'm Zach Edson, and I serve as Program Manager for Infrastructure at Accelerator for America. We're a nonprofit working with mayors and local governments across the country to advance projects related to economic mobility, transit and infrastructure, and workforce development. So for those that might not be as familiar with the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, we wanted to put together a few of the highlights up here, just to be able to do some level setting in terms of what some of the key findings were and about where the region stands today, as far as an economic development perspective goes. So for starters, the population as a whole is declining and aging, and that means more residents are relying on retirement income and few young residents are staying or moving to the region. That, I think, is something that we'd like to see shift going forward. On the bright side, employment does seem to have recovered from the pandemic and does continue to grow, although somewhat slowly. This is another aspect that I assume we'd like to see grow at a more rapid pace. Relatedly, it's important that the economic recovery post-pandemic is inclusive and supports all residents in their community. Another aspect to this finding is that there has been more reliance on self-employment and folks starting their own businesses. I think a really key data point from this perspective is that most of the workers for the businesses that are located within the region actually come to work from outside of the region. And most residents who live here commute to jobs in other regions. And based on some of those demographic trends that we talked about, this is likely only to continue to grow unless we see something shift. So a couple of the key solutions or opportunities to look at would be increasing the supply of affordable housing, as well as improving the transit connectivity. Hence the clear tie to the mission and vision for this Thriving Communities initiative with RiverCog and the other cities that are participating. Also, the focus on environmental sustainability in terms of development or adaptive reuse or redevelopment is something that I think is very important, especially given the environmental sensitivities and sites and locations as we get closer to the shoreline. Next slide, please. So in June, we met with several community stakeholders, and just for reference, that included, aside from the capacity building team at AFA and WSP and Megan's RiverCog colleagues, we heard from several developers in the area, as well as a few representatives from Clinton's Economic Development Council. So that's just a little bit more info on who was present for those stakeholder interviews. And so we met with them in June to ask about their experience and visions with regard to TOD and their community. And throughout the discussion, there were several key points that we heard regarding TOD in the community. And some of those takeaways were: affordable and workforce housing is a major need and priority, with a particular focus on ensuring that long-term residents of Clinton benefit from growth, development, and improved transit accessibility. Another takeaway was enhancing walkability and pedestrian safety around the train station is critical, with a focus on calming traffic to create a pedestrian main street. Improvements are needed for sidewalks, crosswalks, benches, and traffic calming, especially on West Main Street and Stevens Road. The town, we heard, has some funding for sidewalks on the north side, but more may be needed. And during these stakeholder interviews, the developers that were present did express some willingness to partner on those sidewalk developments. Wastewater infrastructure and septic capacity are major constraints on density and downtown development potential. We heard that advocacy may be needed to modernize state health codes to enable alternative treatment technologies. And we also heard that the downtown sewer plant is an important step that would enable more mixed-use development in the area going forward. The large Unilever factory building adjacent to the train station is a major redevelopment opportunity. We heard that past ideas included a sports complex and housing. Regardless, activating this site could be transformational for transit-oriented development in Clinton. And finally, regional connectivity and collaboration with neighboring shoreline towns is important for economic development in terms of attracting new residents, which would then in turn support local businesses as well as hospitality industry in terms of additional employment. Ideas for additional or further regional connectivity and collaboration include coordinated public transit, employee shuttles, tourism promotion, and bicycle infrastructure. And I believe that's it for this slide. Thank you, Megan. And so part of why we're here today is we also hope to hear your input on transit-oriented development in Clinton. So it'd be great to, have a discussion about this presentation as we've given it, as well as some questions such as what have your experiences been with transit-oriented development in Clinton? Where are there opportunities? Where are there challenges? What are the sites that would enhance access for residents? And really using those opportunities to attract more development and growth.
Yeah, I'll run it for you.
So I just have a comment and a question. I guess I'll start with the question. Is this strictly about connecting the towns you just listed, Middletown, Clinton, Westbrook, Saybrook, or are you expanding into other areas such as, my first thoughts are like New Haven or like New London areas as well?
So for this particular plan, and I think it might help to address some of the other questions as well. For this particular plan, what we're doing is we're basically making 4 individual plans, one for each municipality that's participating. That's how we structured the grant application. And that's how all of the towns signed on board. So we're doing kind of 3 for the shoreline and 1 for Middletown that will each be unique, but they will be put together under the umbrella of, RiverCog is coordinating the whole effort. So it will be consolidated into 1 document, but 4 plans. As a regional agency, RiverCog does look at those things like connections in and out of the region. And it's something that we keep top of mind as we're working on these projects. But for this particular effort, it's not something that we're looking at.
Comment following that was, as like issues I've seen with transit as a community member of Clinton was, the Shoreline East Railroad, and that's out of obviously the RiverCog area you're speaking of, that has like a limited, run times. So in taking that towards like New Haven or towards New London, there's issues in like planning any type of daily work trip or coming home at some later evening trip because of the limited time frame. So I guess connecting it back with this project would be some sort of like scheduling that allows for a lifestyle, meaning like an early morning work shift or like a late night coming home from a dinner kind of time period.
Debbie, sorry, Mike.
Good.
So you mentioned that this will help us be positioned or better positioned for federal aid. Is that aid something that would still be available to us if we were accessing it on our own? Is there something about putting the towns together makes it either available or a larger amount?
I can start this, Zach, and then if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch all the questions, but go ahead.
Sure. So I believe the question was the funding resources that we are going to be recommending out of this plan. Are they available to the individual towns applying on their own, or is there something special about all the towns together? I would say from what we've found working as the region, we always have a better chance of being successful at a grant application if we can consolidate multiple towns together, because it makes for a bigger and more appealing project. However, you would still be eligible for these projects. And in fact, I believe, and Zach, you can speak more to this, that there might be preferential treatment on some grants, some bonus points for being part of this.
Yeah. So to that point, there are federal funds available through a variety of grant programs that do give preferential treatment to communities participating in the TCP Thriving Communities program. So just by participating in TCP, there are some bonus points essentially to be earned on grant applications, which can make RiverCog or whoever the applicant may be more competitive for those federal funds. And just a little bit more on some of the the capacity building that we're offering through this grant is identifying those federal funding sources, creative ways for stacking them together to get a project done, identifying best practices in successful applications, as well as supporting the writing and development of those applications should RiverCog or whoever choose to pursue those. So we are the capacity building team, and that's essentially our charge, is to provide additional capacity for the projects and goals identified by the communities.
And, oh, sorry.
So, getting back to Commissioner Alberino's observation that we do have transit service in the form of buses that goes down along the shoreline, it goes up to the shopping center, and it connects, I think, 9 towns. And like you said, you might as well have a Volkswagen because nobody's on the bus. What's your comment about that? So what you're saying, I mean, you're painting this picture of everybody's gonna ride the train, everybody's gonna take the bus, but we know nobody takes the bus. So
How about the bus line from Hartford to Bristol? I mean, it's spent millions and millions.
well, that's kind of my
That whole
point.
thing,
These things sound good in theory, but we can see the theory doesn't work here.
That's it.
So what's your comment on that?
And I just want to say this, all I know is you guys have all this money to spend, you said, do all this. Yet, we have no money to feed all these people from the hurricane. Hundreds and hundreds of people are starving. And all the private people are helping, but yet you guys have all this money. I just don't understand sometimes, and I can't hold it in because you got people. The people, they said they're out of money for FEMA, no money for FEMA, but yet we're helping all these immigrants, we're doing all this stuff, but we have no money to feed. Maybe this is off course, but where's the money? Where's all your money coming?
I think it is off course, and I think if you could continue with the question, please.
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying.
I think we're really sidetracking this
All right,
conversation.
I think Ed's last question was good. Where did their money?
Where's the money coming?
That's
That's what I think before, and I think that's a valuable question.
I'm sorry,
No, I agree. I
Right.
just think we need to continue the conversation.
I want to continue it, but I just said, where's the money coming from? When we can't,
So we'll let them proceed.
So just to clarify, the question is, where's the funding source coming from? Where are the dollars coming from? So
I don't think.
the Thriving Communities program is under the United States Department of Transportation. This program was authorized by the bipartisan infrastructure law. So these dollars were already signed into law, allocated by Congress, and are meant to be used for this program specifically. That being said, most of the dollars are being used to support on-the-ground engagements, whether it be public engagement workshops or strategies. But essentially, the dollars are already targeted for this program.
So getting back to my question about the lack of use of the existing bus line and your comments on that.
So what we're looking at for the Shoreline East stations, I mean, the Shoreline East stations are underutilized. They did suffer service cuts, and that service hasn't been restored yet. And what we've been hearing is without more riders, we can't get service back. But without more residents near the train station that would use the train, we can't get more riders. So it's sort of a circle with no end and no beginning. And what we're trying to do here is figure out what type of vision you have for that area around the train station that does already exist, and how can we find funding sources available for you to make that vision that you want to see a reality. And hopefully, if we can do that, that would encourage more riders on the train, possibly more riders on the bus as well, depending on where their destination is.
I have a question. Getting back to Zach's map of Clinton. There are many areas that, that are shadowed in red and purple and blue and yellow and green. And there's no legend on what these areas, you know, what they differentiate as far as their colors go. And also, there's a lot of writing that seems to be redacted on whatever's labeled there. So we don't really know what it's explaining.
I wonder, Megan and Zach and Miranda, if there's an opportunity.
No, go, you just passed it, the other. Go ahead, one more, two more. Two more forward, no, that,
Those are our zones, aren't they?
yes, it's all Clinton. But if you zoom that in, if it's possible to do, wait, there is writing here, okay, you couldn't read it on here. You have Cedar Island. How would that embark on this?
Very.
Water tank. I think, I wonder to the team online, if we can take some of the maps that were modified from input from the discussion with Mike Rossi, John Allen, the development team, the local developers who discussed things, and some of the feedback from the land use office, if we can get those updated maps and bring them to the commission for specific review in terms of destinations, potential parcels, underutilized parcels, that kind of stuff, it might also help to give something specific to give some feedback to. Because I think we have sort of two things going on right now. It sounds like we've got a philosophical issue about what the purpose and direction of the program is and how it relates to Clinton's autonomy and sort of, self-direction. And then there's also an opportunity for us to start to consider in terms of how we want to best take advantage of the resources and recommendations in this program. We have it, it's here, the project is happening. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day, the list of recommendations are things that this commission is comfortable using, that the town council is comfortable using, and that it dovetails into the P O C D work in a way that everyone is sort of feeling like moves in a single
How
direction.
many people are asking for this? Like, where is this coming from? Right? Like, how did we get here?
So
That's my question. It's like, who's asking for all this?
What do you call it, sponsors?
Megan, you want to take that? You want me to?
So at RiverCog, the board of RiverCog is made up of the chief executive and elected officials. So town manager, your first selectman, whatever form of government each municipality has, their chief elected or executive official sits on the RiverCog board. And anything that RiverCog does is by consensus of the board. When this grant application came available, we had recently completed and adopted through the board our regional housing plan. One of the recommendations of the regional housing plan was to do a study of potential for transit-oriented development in the region. And when we applied for that grant program, this Thriving Communities program, each of the chief elected and executive officials for the 4 participating municipalities signed on for going in with RiverCog on this grant application. So that's how we're here.
If Clinton proceeds with this, can we choose, we get approved for this grant, there's a bunch of money coming for transit oriented development. Does the Clinton body, Clinton elected officials get to choose how that is utilized? As in, do we have to use it for buses, or can we use it for sidewalks, or can it be used for whatever we see?
There's not a new grant coming forward. The grant funded this planning and exploratory effort. The grant is funding the work that they're talking about now. Part of this work would then result in next step grant applications for the participating communities that we could review and say, are these opportunities we want to take? Are we in support of the grant applications? Are there particular projects that we're looking to see funded? What things do we want to do? Is there a particular stretch of sidewalk that needs to be improved? Do we want to do the underpass, by Post Office Square? Do we want, what kinds of things are we hoping to? If there's future development coming on a certain portion of town, do we want to better connect downtown to the west end of town? How do we want to proceed? This grant will tee us up in ways to know more about what federal funding opportunities will be available And to be, and as folks said, be more competitive when they come up. So there's no more immediate dollars. There's no discussion about whether or not the town is participating. That came through under Carl a while back, right? This has been in place for some time.
Yeah, see that.
So it's not new, but it is a question of how this body, town council, the residents of Clinton would want to use the resources identified in this project and program to then springboard the things that you want to see happen next. And the prioritized list of actions kind of coming out of the 2015 POCD into the 2025. How do we want to go about implementing?
You know what I
And
mean?
what's important for this group
Is
is to
that-
make sure the recommendations fit for us.
You know what our major problem is? We don't own any of these buildings. That's a major problem with the downtown. We don't own any of these buildings.
And I think that's sort of that housing connection that Megan was speaking about out of the housing plan and in our conversation with the developers. One of the key takeaways out of that discussion was your market, your economic growth is driven by your rooftops. If you don't have people within an immediate area, it's much harder to grow business in that immediate area. And so that's been part of the conversation of saying, okay, how can we springboard and use a process like this to say, you know, what is the appropriate density type of housing, location of housing, and how far it is from some of these other resources. And because our train station is right downtown, there's an adjacency there that we can use. So if we're saying, you know, we're incredibly concerned with how, you know, supporting our downtown businesses and what what that looks like over time, this process can help us get there by saying, okay, here are some places that you might want to prioritize.
With all the new development coming up, that train station is gonna be wonderful.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, there are things that, there's always pieces the town can do and the private market has to do. And so part of this is saying, okay, if part of what we need to do is create really good connected public spaces, and that's our part. And making sure that infrastructure is available and appropriate, what is the role of the public body in providing those services and those amenities? And then how does that best support the economic growth for our existing and future businesses? How do we marry those things? And that's hard to do without enough people.
I think that, you know, like showing the map of, like I said, with the different colors around the shoreline, Cedar Island's included in it, you know, and then you get federal funding, even in the form of a grant to approve this 10, 20 years down the road. Hey, you know, we gave you federal funding for this. Now we have some say in what's going on here. You know, and that's, I think, you know, maybe 50% of the people in here's concern, you know, and you want to keep municipality in Clinton, you know, not to have source, you know, people calling the shots about what goes on here. And that's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
You know, another major point too is that a lot of times these grants come with a lot of strings.
Right.
And you get a $500,000 grant that by the time the person that's gonna benefit from that grant, he's got about 50 grand in his pocket, because this agency got $100 grand to study, this agency got their input, and it gets whittled away to nothing. It's experience of that with a program my brother's in New Haven. So you get what appears to be a large grant, and everybody starts taking their piece of the pie, and the actual benefit of that grant is whittled away to just a very small portion of the actual large
Well,
grant.
that's what happens with federal grants, like the American Legion, we just got a grant for $100,000. It has to be all, the pay, all the pay is good, what do you call it, when you have to pay?
Yeah, something wage, I can't remember the name.
Prevailing wage.
Yeah.
So instead of making $15-20 an hour, 25, we have to pay them $80 an hour. So you know what we end up with out of the $100 grand? $40,000. 60,000 is going to wages and wages and wages. It's called prevailing wages. That's what happens with,
When we apply for these grants, do we know what those terms are so that we could make a decision at the onset? This is something that benefits us. So I concur with a lot of the concern that if this grant is for multiple towns, this might be something that benefits the other towns, and all of a sudden what we're getting doesn't benefit us. which kind of brings me
Yeah.
back to the question of, we may not be favored in applying for grants for the town, but if we want to keep the control here with the people in Clinton, maybe we do give up a little bit of that potential so that we know exactly what we're getting, what we're applying for.
Larry, years ago, what do you think is gonna happen in West?
You know, as far as what, grants go?
Yeah, the people.
Well, I mean, I worked with grant writers at the Bridgeport Rescue Mission for many years, you know? And, you know, it's a federal funding for a lot of stuff, but they've taken it to a different direction now. It used to be there to really help individuals get, you know, started to where it's just a giant food pantry, just throwing food out the door, you know, and it's, they're getting money to do that, and that's, but they want to write their grants, and they have a whole room full of grant writers doing this constantly. That's all they do all day long, is write grants. You know? And it's, that's what Clinton should have, is a room full of grant writers, you know, really. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the money that River Cog's getting, and I think it's all beneficial in that sense. But as far as the individual towns, it is a little bit of an imposition to say, hey, we're gonna join us all together and say, you know, we all have to agree on the same thing. But that's not, you know, in my opinion, a bipartisan way to do it, you know. But as far as Westbrook goes, it's, you know, what they're doing there is gonna help them as far as their taxing.
Yep.
And stuff, you know, and every municipality is gonna help them, a lot of people. And hopefully the low income housing be beneficial too to some people.
Just been thinking about in terms of like what we as a plan and based on feedback we're all giving right now is, one of the things I'm thinking we might benefit would be from kind of maybe not on-street parking, but you know, the lot, not a lot, I guess, but behind Coffee Break or like next to the veterinarian. That, we can't do what Madison or Saybrook has. We don't have the streets for that, but like, if we were to do some sort of parking, like communal parking area, people could get to. I know, for example, the town fireworks, like, it's kind of a pain, especially if when the Pearson development happens, we're gonna lose that lot. So a big community gathering is gonna be more difficult to get to from around town. And based on the feedback I'm hearing from everybody is, we wanna keep the cars largely, but would rather a community gathering area. I mean, kind of based on at least my experience with the fireworks and such. I don't know, that's kind of where I think we would gear ourselves
Public
towards.
transportation is very important, even for this.
Very
you know,
important. It is very
and-
We're
and,
talking about not walking.
having a connection between Middletown and here is important also.
I thought we didn't like. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
No, when you see the Bluefish Festival.
They're just presenting it, right? It's a presentation. We're not voting on it, correct? And it's just a vote to let us know where they stand, and the town already said yes to do this. So they presented it, and
I think.
are they done with their presentation? Is that it?
So I think, so Megan, with the team on your end, it would be good to know what would be useful from this commission and from other groups in town at this stage of the project to help make sure that as the final project is developed, that some of these concerns are specifically addressed and that we alleviate some of the concern about what the obligations of the town may be by one, participating, and two, you know, how do we make sure that that flavor stays true to Clinton's vision? Which, you know, and I can say, you know, it's been my experience as, you know, sort of participating as staff through this project, that's sort of the entire goal, is to make sure that what the final product is something that is useful to us in whatever form we want it to take next. So it doesn't obligate participating regionally in grant applications if that grant application isn't beneficial to our community, right? There's not an obligatory next step, but there is, you know, again, capacity building, right? So giving us more information to work with in order to make decisions as we go forward. And I think that's an important component to this.
Well, we have
We
the
want to make
outlets,
sure that it
we have the outlets, you know, if there was busing to the outlets and, you know, that's important. Like,
There is, child.
There is.
you know, I'm talking about from Middletown to here, you know, Middletown, bring, people come down, people come all the way from New York to go there. you know? I mean, people, if that was a destination point, if they take public transportation.
Right, and if that Shoreline East was running more frequently,
Yeah,
then they
it's shut down now, right?
Well, didn't they just add a couple trains?
They did, yeah, because my kids take it, and they cut back a lot.
They cut back a lot, but
What's that? The trolley?
No, Shoreline East.
I
Shoreline,
mean, I couldn't take it to Bridgeport for a concert recently because of, it stops running at 9 PM.
Right.
Like, the concert's out at 11, like, how you gonna plan your day off of that?
All right,
So Megan, what is the next step and what do you need from this group in order to sort of keep things going and address some of the things that you were tonight?
Absolutely. I'll start and then I'll let Miranda jump in. First thing I want to say is we absolutely do not want to put together a plan that everybody hates. Our goal is to put together a plan that looks like what you want it to look like. So that's why we're here. We're here to tell you more about the process. We had, very limited turnout at our public stakeholder meeting. And so we wanted to get in front of you and make sure that we were, as transparent as possible about where we are and where we're going. I think the comment about the parking was really useful. I think comments like that, anything that has to do with what you want that area around the train station to look like, to be like, to feel like, things that you definitely do not like, do not want, important places that need to be better connected. Things like that, I think would be really useful, problems that you see and the like. We can certainly provide all of the map package that Abby had mentioned, and you can provide comments for that. The survey, I don't know how many people here took it. It does indicate which town people are from when they take the survey. So we are able to see Clinton specific responses. We were talking about reactivating that survey. If you haven't taken it yet, we can take more feedback from there. And then the other big thing would be, when we do the next public engagement session in January, to come to that as well. But as I mentioned, the goal would be at the end of this to have 4 individual transit-oriented development plans. Each one would be different and reflect the values and priorities of each individual municipality. They won't look anything alike. There might be similarities by coincidence, but that's not by design. And the only thing that this grant process does through the Thriving Communities program is allow us to create this plan. There's no further obligation. So what we're trying to do is create a plan for you, along with steps that will allow you to achieve the vision from that plan.
you'll work,
Oh, go ahead.
you'll work with the new people that we just hired for the POCD.
Of course.
Yeah, there'll be coordination. It'll come through my office, right? So that those 2 projects will align and make sure that at the end, so they're not speaking, number one, counter to each other. And then the pieces that we are in agreement with get lifted and put in the right places. So
I gotta apologize for, coming down on you a little bit about the money, where all the money's coming from, because on the way into work, on the way here, they said there's no more money for the FEMA people, there's no money in FEMA to help out all those people that are dying, no food, water, for a week, so, I'm sorry. I just want to say, but you put out a good presentation. Well, I'm sure talking about it, it's a lot of money.
Minutes into this, okay.
thank you, Megan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And moving on.
Thank you.
And number 5, public hearing, PZ 24-16, 75 East Main Street, Clearfield Section, application to renovate the former Pearson School. So this is being proposed.
Correct. So what we need tonight, so the advertising subject to section 870 of the statutes relative to paper advertising was done appropriately. There was a problem with the developer getting the sign in hand to post on the day it was required to be posted. It was 1 day late. So that means that we cannot open and hold a public hearing tonight. So what we need is a vote to continue the public hearing, until the October 16th special meeting.
I'll make a motion to do that.
Wait, we're not continuing the public.
No,
We're postponing.
You're we are not opening the hearing
we're
tonight.
not opening it.
Right, we are postponing that opening of the hearing until.
Because they put it in the paper. They did everything they were supposed to do, the applicant.
So we need a motion to that effect?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna make. I'll make a motion to, schedule the public hearing, PZC 24-16, 75 East Main Street, on October 16th at 7 P.M. And the rain date will be, snow date, October 7th.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries. Okay, number 6, staff reports.
So just real quick, the plan of conservation and development update, the contract is signed. We are moving forward. I will be discussing with the lead consultant, David Murphy, from Resilient Land and Water tomorrow, a schedule to bring before the commission to start talking about how we are going to kick this off. We will be scheduling a series of meetings, and what we'd like to do, I talked to Michael Rossi about this, and he was gonna also sort of speak to it tonight. What we'd like to do, there are 4 meetings of the full commission at regular commission meetings planned throughout the next year as part of this process. But for the months that those meetings aren't happening, there is also scheduled, or in the budget, meetings with the committee to advance the plan. One of the things that we talked about was pausing work relative to the regulations committee and using those first Thursday evenings at 5:30 for those who are available, or if we need to pick a different time, we can. It's just, it's a convenient spot. To hold more in-depth conversation so that if we have a busy agenda, we're not losing the focus on the POCD as part of, as you do your regular business. So there would be meetings that happen with the full body here, and there would be meetings that happen with as many members as would like to participate on those, on those monthly Thursday meetings. So on the ones that we're not meeting here, we would meet and talk about specific sections and concepts and provide feedback. Yeah,
And Abby, what's the company that's doing the plan for it?
Resilient Land and Water.
Resilient?
Yep, they are the lead.
You don't know this, but she got, there's skin in the game. One of the people live here.
Yep.
Okay, she's
All right,
And I'll have more details after the discussion tomorrow, and all the paperwork and stuff like that is in place. We will have some time at the November meeting to talk about sort of, process and where things are going moving forward and what the schedule is going to look like. What I'd like to do is schedule out the year of meetings for this group. And try to say that this is the rhythm that you can expect to get into for this project so that you just kind of plan your time around. And we'll go from there.
all right, old business. We're moving on.
Well, do it on.
New business, I'm sorry.
New business.
I'm sorry. Any new business? No, okay, old business. PZ 24-. Site plan. Is anybody here for that?
Yep, Tony is on the call.
I am here just about to share a screen, so give me 1 second. I think that's the right one. Nope, doesn't look like it. Do you guys see a plan or do you see my whiteboard?
Zone R10, zone.
We're with you.
Give me 1 second. Share. Let's do it that way. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yep.
All right, good evening. My name is Tony Bolduc, agent for the applicant. I'm here for a parcel located at 34 Riverside Drive, also known as Cedar Island Marina. The project's located within the marine zone. So I did want to correct something that I saw. It does state that we're 100 feet for tidal wetlands. We're actually 162 feet from the coastal jurisdiction line. So we're quite farther away from the tidal wetlands than it as indicated. The site is located within both flood zones VE13 and AE12. The proposed construction is entirely within the AE12 zone. Owner to remove an office from the first floor and cut into the second floor, or second office to construct stairs and create a second floor, because the office space on the downstairs is pretty limited. So you'd like to redivide the cubicles that are down there, reducing the number of floor, moving the cubicles to the second floor, recreating 2 offices up there. Some storage space, a small deck so you can oversee the marina. And all this construction would be above an existing building that's there now. I lost my place here. So I just wanted to mention a couple things. So Connecticut General Statutes are section 22A 93(7)(I) defines this site as a developed shorefront. And the Office of the Long Island Sound Program states that why these sites are valuable. So developed shorefronts have limited natural value. However, they provide other significant benefits. They're economically valuable. They serve as major transportation and commercial centers. They support significant recreation for boating opportunities. They provide substantial cultural and historic value, and they provide significant waterfront access. So we did receive a letter from the DEP. However, that letter was issued prior to us putting forward our cost for construction. And the reason I mention this is that if this construction project is considered 50% or more, you would have to bring the entire building up to FEMA compliance. So right now, we've asked the contractor and the owner to come up with a cost. They've come up with that, and we're at 47.6%. They've also indicated that these numbers are on the very high side. They expect this number to be slower. So I've actually discussed this with Abby slightly, and in order to maintain that 50% or under value, Rich, the building inspector, keeps track of everything as the project moves forward. So he could not come in, over that number. As he moves along, there'll be, oversight in that. We've also received CRAD approval, Design Review Board, Harbor Commission approval. The fire chief did have recommendations that he wanted a fire emergency access key box and a monitored alarm. The owner has agreed to that. And one other point I'd like to add is, so Clinton's regulations right now just allow you to use the assessed value of a parcel. And a lot of surrounding towns actually allow you to bring in an appraiser, so you can come up with an appraised value from an appraiser. And that's actually kind of in line with FEMA's current regulations and guidelines, which is why the other towns do have that. And I know Abby has indicated that the current coastal site plan requirements for the town of Clinton are slightly older and maybe haven't been reevaluated, so that maybe that's why that's like that. I'd also like to say that this is in line with Connecticut's coastal policies. By doing this, we maintain the future water dependent development within the marine zones, and that's actually outlined in section 18 of the Clinton zoning regulation. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, 34, we're in relation to Cedar Island, where would that be?
So if you're driving it to Aqua, it's the building that's on the right hand side, and I'll give you a picture if you can.
Okay.
And so it's the building that's got the 3 roofs. So they'd be looking to put the second floor addition over that, and it's just the western third part.
So Abby, we have received all the required documentation, correct?
We have received all of the required documentation. Cost came in on Friday, and it is, as Tony indicated, less than the 50% threshold for substantial improvement. I spoke with both Chris Shapiro and Tony today, just to sort of make sure that everyone is clear that they are very close to that 50% threshold. So if something does happen within the town's 5-year look back period under section 17 of the regs, under substantial improvement or substantial damage, this building may run the risk of having to come into compliance with FEMA standards in that period. But they're doing it with eyes wide open, and we've verified costs with the assessor and the building official and feel comfortable. There are 2 findings of fact that I would recommend if the commission is looking in a favorable light on the application. One is that the project incorporates reasonable measures to mitigate potential adverse impacts to coastal resources and future water dependent activity. And the second finding, which is one of our standard CAM findings, the proposed application is consistent with CGS section 22A-92. Those are just sort of standard pieces that the commission, you know, under section 18 of our regulations and the Coastal Management Act, we need to make sure that we acknowledge.
We've been down there during the storms, Irene and Sandy.
So if that 47% number was to exceed 50% throughout the project or however it develops, then it has to be made, it's considered a substantial,
Correct. If the total project cost exceeds $110,750, that is the limit for this project. Right now, they are $105,500.
so.
So as building permits come in, or if there's unforeseen issues, there may need to be sort of value engineering and modifications made to a project along the way if for some reason it was more expensive. Once they hit that 50%, the town is obligated to uphold the FEMA requirement to meet those
Is
constraints.
that including the bond?
Hmm?
Is that including their bond?
There has not been a bond contemplated for this. That's something that the commission has the right to consider. I don't know that it's necessary for this.
Is this wood frame or is this metal construction?
Wood
So
frame.
anyway,
Woodford.
Yeah, it's wood framed.
Do we put forth some sort of requirement saying, I mean, it said they're obligated to if they reach the 50?
It's already, that's.
It's already in there.
And how many square feet is the addition?
So it's 1,500 square feet.
They're good, they're good neighbors.
And is it gonna block other neighbors from view?
Except for.
What's that?
The height is gonna block other neighbors from view?
So
Weirdly positioned where.
as soon as you go in, it's right there to the right, actually their office.
Well, they're just cutting it close. I just did a project on a house, it's $110,000. And it, one addition. A portico, but, you know, the rest of the house had to be, you know, sort of spruced up. And a roof and all that.
But the applicant's aware of these,
He's aware of everything.
yeah, one of
Yes.
the reasons I wanted to say it on the record is so that we have a record that the commission, you know, has everybody on notice and that everybody is sitting with eyes wide open.
Okay.
We can make a motion.
So you-
I'd like to make a motion to approve PZC 24-15 with the comments that Abby made, including with the plan and also our regulations.
And I just second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, just for clarification, you're saying with the comments like the coastal management plan?
Correct.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
The two findings of fact that would be adopted.
Yeah,
right.
That's.
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Name.
Motion carries.
You're all set, so.
Thank you.
So moving on to old business B, 75 East Main Street and C, 75 East Main Street have been tabled.
Okay.
The PZ 2418 76 Short Drive, postal type plan, demolished two homes to replace with a single family home applicant. Better engineering, right?
Good evening.
You're up, Greg.
If I known that first, little presentation was gonna be so long, I probably would have been on Zoom also. Anyway,
There you go.
I'll run home and grab my. Good evening, my name is Greg Fettis with Fettis Engineering, representing the applicant and the owner of 76 Shore Road. I'm just gonna flip to sheet 2, which is actually the demo plan. We've got the habit of doing separate drawing, it's a little crowded otherwise. But currently there's two call them homes on this property, one kind of located closer to Shore Road, and then one tucked in the back, closer to the tidal marsh. So what we're proposing to do in a couple of sheds located also even closer to the tidal marsh, we're proposing to demolish basically all the buildings on site and replace it with a zoning compliant, one building, underground stormwater controls, code compliant septic system, and all the kind of sediment erosion control, features that we typically you see on any house development, especially on the shoreline. So we did, it's yeah, we're in an AE zone. But we're also in the Limois, which is limited wave action, so we're required to do piers, breakaway walls, and flood venting on the lower level. The fully code compliant FEMA structure, fully code compliant septic system, and the first 1.3 is 1 stormwater coming off the roof. Pervious, 50 feet plus, to the structure from the tidal wetlands. So we did get, engineering review, basically says all equipment must be above elevation 13, which is base flood +1. And then the other item is, talks about the breakaway walls and the flood venting. Which they,
Those are included on the plan.
what's that?
Those are all included on the plan.
It's included on the architectural plans that were submitted. We'd like us to label all the walls breakaway. Said breakaway wall typical, so we can do that as a condition if that's necessary. That's really driven by the building department. We'll make sure that when the actual construction documents come in, that all that.
Do you have any paperwork already? Any approval from anybody?
Well, so we got the deep letter came in, did it come in today or Friday?
Late Friday. and then
Late Friday,
we got today. Mhm.
Okay. And, you know, they kind of talk generally about, say, number of bedrooms, 2 buildings to 1 building, FEMA compliance, stormwater, which we mentioned. They do kind of throw out their general warning that you're building in a flood zone. You know, you don't necessarily have safe passage out if there's a full-on flood here. Emergency personnel may have a tough time getting to you, but
Or not?
that's, so there is 2 structures there now. There's 5 bedrooms there now. We're not increasing the number of bedrooms, so we're just updating. So I think we're better off in a FEMA compliant house than a 2
So the
not
reason,
FEMA compliant
Right.
buildings.
well, the
I think that a couple of the major concerns here is that we'd be, first of all, reducing the ground coverage just slightly, right, from 18.1 to 18, from 18.9 to 18.1. But we still have a reduction, which is good. And we're also getting a new septic system, which is also very important in an area like this. I think it's a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I was just wondering if there's been if the new septic's going in, is there any thoughts about like an alternative system, one of the ones that are like better for the less?
Yeah, so just to be straight with everyone, we did submit to CRAD early on. CRAD took a little bit to kind of review it and decided it was a little more complex than they were willing to review, so they had to ship it up to the state public health department. I've been talking to Sean Merrigan from the state health department. I thought I was gonna have an email or something from him today. He's not gonna get until Wednesday, but we had already talked about kind of the changes that need to happen, and it is one of the more state-of-the-art systems with soil air. It's, you know, again, right now, I think there's, let's say, a cesspool for one of the buildings and a kind of a put together septic. I don't even know what it is. It's not, we didn't find anything really when we were digging out there. But this is, you know, again, state of the art soils are, the test pits that we dug back there are medium to coarse sand, so it's like typical shore road soils. So I don't have an approval from the state. I expect it this week.
So
I'd be okay with it.
If it doesn't have that.
We can conditionally, but I don't know if I'd like to go down that road.
There's four sort of general conditions that I can think of through this, and some of them are fairly minor. And the health status is probably the one that's the most outstanding.
That's the most up.
So I can give you sort of the language that I would talk about, and then the commission can discuss if you are comfortable going forward pre-health approval or not, if you want to hear them.
We'll go forward, and then the health will be a condition.
You can always do it as a condition, but it's, yeah,
I feel comfortable with it being a condition. Sometimes I wouldn't but there's not a lot of
They
options.
can't do, they won't be able to do
no, I
anything.
understand.
They can't, you guys gotta understand, they can't do anything without the help. They
And I-
can't do anything, so being that a condition
Make that a condition.
for approval, that, I mean, it's like,
And the
you
comments.
can't drive your car with a cap, so it ain't gonna go anywhere. So, and that puts that in there.
Comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable. Also,
It's usually whatever.
if we were increasing the bedrooms, say by 2 or 3 bedrooms,
But you're
I
not.
wouldn't be comfortable.
Then I would be.
Because, well, right, but since we've already have 5 bedrooms,
How many bathrooms?
there's kind of a health department obligation.
How many
that they-
bathrooms?
I think there's 3. I'm not 100% sure.
Alright,
So Abby, what conditions would you,
So there's two prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant shall provide the written evidence that the necessary approvals relative to wastewater have been completed, and if those approvals result in any changes to the approved layout of the site, that it would come back to the commission. Two comments from CHA, the consulting town engineer, relative to the elevation of mechanical equipment and flood event calculations and construction details shall also be addressed prior to issuance of the building permit. Again, that's something that would be done anyway, but it kind of wraps up your process. 3, prior to the start of work, the ZEO shall inspect sediment erosion controls. And 4, an as-built of site improvements, including the final design and capacity of the infiltration mechanisms, would be provided again prior to the certificate.
What's the total square feet?
and Abby, one more thing I do if I could. Also, what about the comment about the breakaway walls being listed differently on the plan?
So what I was saying here is that comments from CHA dated September 16th, 2024 would need to be resolved prior to the issuance of the building permit.
They have to be.
And then again, that as built, would be required at the.
So do we have to require a bond for this?
You do not have to require a bond. That's.
Greg, I see that on the site plan, you have a 1,250 gallon septic system, which is probably a 4-bedroom house, right?
No, that's the 5-bedroom now.
It is?
Yeah,
They decreased it?
so 1,000 gallons for a 3-bedroom
Yeah.
plus 125 gallons per bedroom above that. Used to be 250.
Okay.
So now a 5-bedroom is 1,250.
Oh, I put more bedrooms.
So, is that still gonna accommodate 3 kitchens and 3 washing facilities as well? Is that?
Yeah, it's all bedroom driven, so.
anybody else have any more questions?
And then just one more comment that the same 2 findings discussed in the previous, this particular application would be as conditioned, the project incorporates reasonable measures to mitigate potential adverse impacts to coastal resources and future water dependent activity. And the proposed application is conditioned is consistent with CGS section 22A92.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
PZZ 2418 with the conditions that Abby outlined and also the notations of compliance.
All in favor?
Wait, a second.
She second.
I said.
She second.
I gave it to you to last.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Geez,
Thank you, Greg.
Thank
Great,
you.
Greg. Have a nice day, Greg.
Committee reports?
No committee reports right now.
Correspondence and bills?
There is one element of correspondence from Tony Bolduc, and this has to do with the application that recently the motion was made and failed to carry to modify 151 to 153 East Main Street to allow for commercial space in the previously designated residential buildings and to convert one of the buildings up along Route 1 from a one family designation to a 2-family. The application before the commission at the time was one package. So the ask of the commission for this last application was convert the commercial space and take this building number 3 and move it from 1 unit to 2 units. The entire application failed to carry, which is effectively a denial.
Yeah, you guys denied it.
So the question, so unanimous, so the question becomes that Tony has posed to the commission in his correspondence is the owner of that property would like to come back to the commission with the one question of whether or not building 3 could move from 1 to 2 units of residential, to 2 distinct dwelling units within the same building, same footprint, requires the same health approvals, all that kind of stuff. The reason for that is because the commission didn't spend significant time discussing that component of the application. They felt it was substantially different enough that the commission would not be bound by impotent to reverse requirements, and it wouldn't necessarily vacate a previous discussion with the commission. If they come back before the commission to modify the special exception for that one change to that one building and maintaining the residential use, which was, again, it was always a residential building, so just be adding 1 more unit to it. The commission would need to make a finding that the application is substantially different enough when it comes back in that you are comfortable reviewing it and that wouldn't reverse or negate a previous decision of this body. So we do have to address some procedural elements to it, but the purpose of the discussion tonight is, will the commission entertain? Oh, I got a mute, sorry. Will the commission entertain that discussion and a new application on the heels of the previous denial?
I think what I was getting at is by law, somebody comes in with an application is denied, they can't come back like next month with another application.
Right.
It's the same thing. So we have to find this is a significantly different
Application.
that was not addressed really at all, from my
They
understanding.
should vote no again.
Yeah, the bulk of the conversation in the previous application was whether or not to convert the commercial spaces to residential. And that was a resounding no. The question here, but what was not really discussed was the component of that application that had to do with moving that 1 unit to 2.
Right.
And that's really the question before the commission. So if you're amenable, they will submit for a November application, and if we can make the timing of the paper, it's narrow. November or December.
I think it does represent a significant.
It's a significant change. Have them come back.
Tony, are you good?
Tony,
Unmute, Tony.
Tony,
Okay, I'll check it with them tomorrow.
Right.
I know where you live. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
It's open. Oh, my God.
I was great. Hey,